Ahoy, and welcome back to Leia's Library. Find yourself a cozy corner, get yourself something cozy to drink, and let's get started. Today we will be looking at books that were made into actually decent adaptations. So last week I did a video where I talked about adaptations that were better than the book, and in this case the adaptations are not better, but they are, in my opinion, as good. And that isn't to say that they are entirely book accurate per se. I just think that you get either a very similar experience or a different experience that's equally good for various reasons. And I will get into that on a case-by-case situation. All right, let's get into it. So first up on the list, which is a bit of a controversial choice, is the 2005 version of Pride and Prejudice, starring Keira Knightley as Lizzie Bennet. And I know a lot of book fans have issues with this movie, and I understand them. I see them. I really like this movie. What can I say? The cinematography is so good. So I know there's a lot of, first of all, the biggest thing is that the director just didn't like the fashion of the Regency era, so he set it a couple years before the book is set in, because he didn't like Regency fashion. He thought it looked bad, which, he's not entirely wrong. The Empire silhouette is not for everyone. Dare I say, it's not for most people. So I kind of get it. Although it is kind of, I will admit that it is kind of strange that he wanted to do an adaptation of a Regency era novel that is well known for being from and in the Regency era, and he was like, yeah, but I'm gonna do it on another time period. So I get it, I do. And this movie isn't entirely book accurate. It's got all the same plot beats to it, but it does there are some little differences, but you know what? I don't care. I love this movie. I love it a lot. I think the shots are just so beautiful, and I think the characters are all really great. I remember hearing of an interview with Keira Knightley where she was like, it's really intimidating to be Lizzie Bennet because everybody has their own ideas of Lizzie Bennet because she's such a well-loved character, and a lot of people kind of self-insert themselves as Lizzie, so she was never going to be everybody's version of Lizzie. But I really like her version of Lizzie, and yeah, I don't know. I just really like it. So I think both are great. Next is A Monster Calls. I didn't explain what Pride and Prejudice was about. Do I have to explain what Pride and Prejudice is about? I'm not gonna. But next is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness / Siobhan Dowd, which the book is a middle grade, possibly YA, but I lean more towards middle grade, story about a young boy who every night has the same nightmare with a monster, and he wakes up one night to find a monster at his window that wants something from him. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and the movie just understood the assignment. I don't know if there's any a discourse on differences between the movie and the book, but when I watched the movie, I'd recently read the book, and it felt like I could read along to the movie. I will say that the only thing about the movie that I thought the book did actively better was the last scene, which I won't spoil, but the movie added a final scene that I don't think ruins it by any means. I just don't think it was necessary, and I prefer the book ending, and I wish they'd stuck to that. But that's it. Other than that, I you still get the same emotional punch, the ripping of the heart out of the chest and the stomping on it. Yeah, that's all there. So if you don't have time to read the book, even though it is a pretty short book, you could watch the movie and get basically the same experience. Next is Howl's Moving Castle, which was a book written by Diana Wynne Jones. I feel like Howl's Moving Castle is well known enough that I don't need to give a description, but I will link a video where I talk more about it somewhere. So this was adapted into a Studio Ghibli animated movie in 2004. And this is one of the cases where the book and the film are quite different. But I think each has their own value that I really like. I think the sort of unofficial headcanon of everyone is that the movie is from Howl's perspective, but the book is from Sophie's perspective. And I think that's just so perfect. So that's what I choose to believe. I watched the movie first, so that very much could have impacted my thoughts on it. But I really enjoy the movie. Is definitely messier than the book because there is an entire added war subplot that is like a line in the book, I think, and that's about it. So there is that. So the movie is definitely a little bit more messier than the book. But I don't know, I still just really like it. I like the way both of them handle this, these two people just kind of like learning to love themselves and sort of falling in love along the way. I think the book handles that a little bit better, but I still like the movie. And also, Howl in the movie? Look me dead in the eyes and tell me that's a straight cis man. Listen, I'll take non-binary representation wherever I can. I'll create it if I have to. Although if you have only ever seen the Howl's Moving Castle movie, I would recommend reading the book because, like I said, it's kind of like you get the other side of the story. And it has a lot, it goes into more depth with most of the characters, I find. And it just, the overall story is wrapped up a little bit nicer. I say that, but I love the movie, and I think both are equally good, just in their own ways. So yeah. And the last one on the list, this is a short video, I really bulldozed through this, my bad. The last one on the list is Haunting of Hill House, which was originally written by Shirley Jackson, and this has 2 adaptations, and I think both of them count in this instance. The first one was a 1963 film called The Haunting, and the other was a Netflix miniseries made in 2018. Both of them are very different from each other. If you are looking for a book-accurate adaptation, I would go with the 1963 movie. I think they did a really good job of translating the book to screen. And they kept a lot of the original, I believe they kept a lot of the original lines, but a lot of the original scenes and the sort of feelings or the atmosphere from the book is represented very well in that one. And it is truer to the story. Whereas the Netflix adaptation took some liberties. But I recognize that the Netflix adaptation is a very different story that's kind of only loosely tied into the original Haunting of Hill House novel, but I really like the miniseries. I think it takes ideas that were in the book and then modernizes them a little bit and expands on them a little bit and adds in some other like complementary themes that add really well to it. And I just think it's a really good show. It's also definitely more obvious horror, by which I mean there are a lot of jump scares and a lot of spooky looking things, whereas in the book it definitely felt a little bit more psychological, I guess, even though there were ghosts, but the horror felt more psychological, whereas in the Netflix show it is more in your face. But I think both have equal value. And I think the Netflix show is just incredibly well done for what it was, even if that meant they deviated from the source material a bit. I'm not even mad. When something's being adapted, I don't need it to be a word for word, page for page, scene for scene, shot for shot remake of the original book. I just need something that's good. Something that's good, something that sticks with the themes, the ideas present, are ideally the characters too, unless they're terrible characters. I'm all for upgrades where upgrades would be beneficial, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So yeah, I highly recommend both of these adaptations, and also the original book. They're all great in their own different ways. And that's everything on the list for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite adaptation is down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And until next time, if you'd like to find me elsewhere, you can find me on Instagram as Leia Like the Princess. You can also find my little embroidery and art store over there, Moonlit Cat Creations, or you can go directly to its website at moonlitcatcreations.com. And some of you may know this already, but I am an actor and a writer, occasionally a writer, and I have a fringe show going up in the Montreal Fringe Fest this year that I wrote and will be performing in, and we are currently crowdfunding it so that any profits that we get can go directly to my wonderful little creative team. So if you have some spare cash lying around, I would love if you could help us out a little bit, and if you don't, totally fine, no worries. It's rough out there. Sharing it around would also be super helpful for me and us. So if you'd like to support little guy, local, perhaps theater, we'd super appreciate it. And until next time, stay cozy.